Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our ICEAA Software SIG, the Future of Software Cost Estimation webinar. We have Eric Vliet and Bob Hunt who are going to be hosting today. I'm Megan Jones, Executive Director of ICEAA. We're going to go through some questions with our panelists today. And then at the end, if you have questions, if you can put them in the chat for us, and you can put them in as they arise. If we have time towards the end, we'll answer your questions from the chat. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Eric Vliet.
Okay, thanks, Megan. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, as Megan mentioned, we organized this on behalf of the ICEAA Software SIG, the special interest group in ICEAA, with the intention to improve the knowledge and the awareness of cost estimation in software. The facilitators will be Bob and myself, supported by Megan. We have three experts that will in the panel. So we have Arlene Minkiewicz from Unison Cost Engineering, located in the US. We have Frank Vogelezang from IDC, and we have Sanathanan Rajagopal from Sirius. Sanat is located in the UK. Frank is located in the Netherlands. So we have an international audience. Yes, Bob will guide the people to the panel list. So as mentioned by Megan, if you have any questions during the session, please put them in the chat. And then I will, for now, I would say, enjoy the session and hand it over to Bob to start with the discussion.
Thank you, Eric. So we have four questions that we have given the panelists in advance so they'd have some time to think about it. I would suggest that you use the chat panel or whatever to add in any questions you might have later. So the first question, and kind of a quick round, we'll go to Arlene, Sanath, and Frank kind of in that order each time. I'd like for you to try to keep your answers to about 2 minutes so we could move through this fairly quickly. But the first question is, in your view, what are the emerging trends shaping the future of cost estimation for software? How crucial is the practice? And is it being recognized by IT management? So, Arlene, would you take the first shot at that?
Be happy to. So software is more crucial than ever, in my opinion, in projects and in almost all aspects of industry. Software cost estimating grew out of like aerospace and defense and the need for people to do contracts and, make bids and stuff. But more and more we're seeing, and we have a cost estimating product, we're seeing people make inquiries across multiple industries, understanding how crucial software is to their business. So some of the trends that I'm seeing, agile development and the DevSecOps movement are, people want to know, how do I estimate that? How is estimating that different than what I normally do? Or is it? And then we have model-based software engineering, which, is the practice of creating models to build software. How do I estimate the effort that goes into creating those models, and where do I see the trade-off as I develop software for those models? I just think software estimation is crucial in many ways. People use it to evaluate proposals. They use it as a way to plan projects. They use it as a way to evaluate, what their suppliers are telling them it's going to cost to develop software for their applications or to integrate into their systems. So yes, I think that software estimation is crucial. And my final word on this is there's also increased push into understanding the total ownership cost of software. So it's not just how much does it cost me to develop this software, but what are my ongoing costs? So the DevSecOps kind of looks at that a little bit, but we still, how long is this software going to be in play, and how often are we going to have to update it?
Thank you, Arlene. Sanath, over to you. Same question, emerging trends, and how critical, and is management accepting that?
I totally agree with Arlene, what she said. It is a crucial and critical part of any estimate going forward. I look into software into two parts. The early part, where you need to have understanding of the development of the software, So that's crucial to understand how much that particular software is going to cost in any capability platform wherever you use. The second crucial part is how you're going to maintain that software through life, and that could be maintenance of the software on a day-to-day running, debugging, bugging, upgrade, updates, how much that's going to cost, and also on the obsolescence side of it. So one of the things that I've seen in the last few years is understanding how much a software maintenance cost is going to happen, especially in defense and aerospace industry, because they've got plenty of bespoke software that they don't clearly have control over. They know well enough to buy the product or estimate the cost of the product, but not necessarily looking into the maintenance and true life side of it. So that's one emerging market that I've seen. And the other emerging element that I've seen in the last few years is the availability of the data. Largely you can say, about 5-6 years ago, especially in UK, we always said we don't have enough data. But now I've started seeing emergence of data through best practices that is already in place in some organizations. So that's a good sign. We should be able to use those data to estimate better.
Thank you. Frank, same question to you, trends and practices?
Yeah. Well, it's always a bit difficult to be the last and without repeating all the useful things Arlene and Sanat already said. I think one of the things, and that's not necessarily from the cost estimation point of view itself, but it's impacting the importance of cost estimation, is that at IDC we see an important change, that IT and business are becoming less and less two separate entities within organizations. IT is merged more and more into the business part of the organization, and that's I think a very positive point from cost estimation, because then you see that more and more the stakeholder needs a good idea of what IT is going to cost and relate it to the revenue he's thinking to gain for it. Mm-hmm. So that's I think a good development. Another thing, and Arlene already touched a little bit on it, is that software cost estimation is always also an important aspect of organizations that work with IT financial management and technology business management practices. Not only what it costs to create the software, but also what it will cost during the lifetime.
Life cycle. Mm-hmm.
And the last part of your question was the recognition by IT management. Depends on the type of IT manager. I see traditional IT managers and who hate this development because they lose control over their IT. But if you have IT managers that are looking at the value that IT can bring to the organization, they are embracing it, and there we see the largest traction to do proper cost estimation.
Thank you, Frank.
Bob, can I add on
Yes.
to what Frank and Arlene said?
Yes,
So the latest thing that I also seen happening is now about 10-15 years ago, software cost is they hide software cost under the system category, and they don't want to deal with the software because they don't understand this. There is a sudden shift change or pattern change in the key stakeholder or decision makers now that they need to understand the key cost driver of whatever they are trying to do. And software now it's been recognized that we need to have a look at it because that drives the cost. So there's a complete paradigm shift from where it was about 10 years ago. Now the key stakeholders need to know or want to understand how much their software is going to cost at the very start. So that's a huge shift. And that's throughout the industry, be that be commercial or defense.
Thank you, Vanna.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yeah.
That's a great point, because my company, we do hardware estimating and software estimating, and for years I'm like, well, where's the software data? Oh, we just blended that in with the hardware data, and they're not doing that anymore. They're trending towards collecting software data separately so that they can use it to estimate software, because software is so much more important than it was 30 years ago.
Good. So we'll change the order. Go ahead.
No, I just agree.
Okay, so we'll change the order, Frank, so you won't have to go last. Let you go first. And frankly, this is the question that probably interested me as much as any. I'm currently doing a large estimate for a government agile software development program, and boy, I ran head on into the no estimate issues and what we're doing. So the question is, with industry shift towards agile methodologies, how do you anticipate that impacting software cost estimating practices, and what adjustments or adaptations are needed to align with the agile principles? So Frank, would you go first?
Yeah, thanks. Well, at the early cost estimation, there's, as far as I can see, not a great shift, because early cost estimation is usually done at a scaled level, so above the team level. But for tracking the progress towards the goals, there you see that the team level is very important, because there the data to track your progress needs to be gathered. And what I really think as the beauty of agile software development, as opposed to traditional long milestone development, is that you have a new data point every 2 to 4 weeks. So when your development deviates from your original plan, you have a much better early warning system, and that means that apart from the agility and scope that's inherent to agile software development, you also have some, let's say, agility in tracking how good the teams are performing, which is, I think, as important as estimating what their entire effort will cost.
Mm-hmm.
And another important change with agile, and it was there before agile, but it became more imminent, is that there's actually no such thing as a software project. It's always part of something. Like the example Arlene gave, we just put the software cost in the hardware development. Yeah, that's when you're building a product. But for instance, if you're a new service as a, whatever furniture production company, for instance, you need software, but you also need your logistics in place. And with Agile, that's becoming more prevalent, that it's not only the software that matters, but also it's part of it. And what I really like, you mentioned the no estimates, but the no estimate movements forget that there is always one very important estimate to be done. Someone high up in the organizations need to decide how much money will be allocated to developing software. And that's also estimation.
Yes.
Whether you just spend that money, that's a business decision.
Yes. Excellent. Arlene, your thoughts on the same question?
I do have thoughts on this. My number one thought is that you still need to estimate your software projects, as Frank said, because it's important to the business, it's important for planning, it's important for budgeting, it's important to make a go, no-go decision. My second thought is that everyone, many organizations, many software development projects say that they're an agile software development project. But if one goes back and reads the Agile Manifesto, okay, they're not really Agile, but they are applying Agile best practices. So from an estimation perspective, I think there's a lot that we can learn about how Agile best practices improve productivity, improve quality, improve lifecycle costs. So, you know, in a perfectly Agile world, if you're following the manifesto to the letter, okay, maybe you don't need an estimate because you know how many iterations you're going to have, you know how many releases you're going to have, you know how many people are on your team. But from a business perspective, that doesn't work because team changes and the requirements change. So I think it's very important, even on an Agile project, to do an estimate at the beginning of the minimum viable product. So what is it that the customer is going to accept as the project that they want, given the fact that the customer can change the requirements during the process? Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think is super important is that the cost team, the people that are responsible for high-level cost estimates, they need to be more engaged with the Agile software development team in order for them to understand when the team says, okay, here's our story points, or here's our t-shirt size for these different features that we're going to implement, that they understand what they mean and that they have a way of calibrating the process so that maybe at the beginning, the estimate for the MVP, minimum viable product, isn't right, but nobody's estimate is ever right at the beginning of a software project because things do change. But if the cost team works more closely with the Agile team, they begin to develop an understanding of what they mean when they say it's going to take them 50 story points to do this, or, you know, this feature is going to be 50 story points or 2 story points or whatever. But they also start to collect metrics because, as Frank said, you know, you get metrics every 2 to 4 weeks in an Agile project, that the cost team, if they're working with the Agile team, can actually start to understand velocity for the team and can, out of this emerges a really good estimate over time because Agile teams tend to get to a steady state.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are my points.
Yeah, thank you. Sanath, your perspective on Agile and what's happening?
Right. Okay. So I got 2 views on that. One, a strategic view and then an operational view. I'll go with the strategic view. For all the tracking, planning, budgeting, you do need a good cost estimate, regardless of what process that you follow. Now, so that's my view. So as Frank and Arlene said, no doubt about the necessity for undertaking cost estimate to understand or look at the business as a whole for business purposes. On the operational side, I'm going to give an example of a particular project that I worked recently. They are agile. And they call themselves as hybrid agile, which I don't think it is. It's just usage of terminology. But the calibration of the data, what they actually done against the plan, and you know, is the critical element. So there's a budget that they've got, and if they're working within the budget, that's fine with the HR, but what output that we see, time sheets, for example, how many hours they spend in developing this particular iteration and things like that, the calibration of the data is very, very difficult. They don't do it properly. So essentially, we end up doing an estimate of predicting how much this particular iteration is going to take to complete, rather than looking at the cost at the very highest level in the agile element. So yeah, it's good that people are going into agile, breaking down huge problem into smaller chunk and trying to solve the problem. But it's also good. It's a necessity that we track it and calibrate the data appropriately, so that it is going within the budget or within the early estimate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's excellent. I think that's one of the main things that we will face as we move forward. The next question, I'll change the order to Sanath, then Frank, then Arlene. And the next question is, AI, artificial intelligence, is becoming increasingly prevalent in the data-driven decision-making. How do you foresee AI technologies influencing and improving software cost estimation processes in the coming years?
Great question, and it's one that I always look into. Yeah, it's a technology that we need to get used to, and it's an emerging technology. It's not just cost estimate, software cost estimating that will be influenced with any part of estimating. AI will play a crucial role. Now, I've seen a couple of instances where AI is being used effectively. I'll start with the example and then I'll explain it. I'm not sure if you guys sat in one of the ICEAA cost challenge this year. There were two teams who used AI. So the first team used AI to complement the estimate that they've done. So going back and checking whether the output is similar to what was already there. And the other team used AI to create a framework, and then using that framework to help the cost estimating. Now that's one use of AI. The other element is, I always say AI is another methodology that we can use to estimate cost. So we got CERs, cost estimating relationship, using a parametric to any of the tools that I use. You got CERs. It's a maths. It's an algorithm. You develop the algorithm further and incorporate them into your daily use. So essentially, you're expanding your intelligence and expanding your capability to do the estimate more efficiently. So it's not a hindrance, actually. It is a bonus point. It's a blessing that and AI is coming in, and we can use the AI for our benefit. The key undermining principle of using AI efficiently and effectively is to have a good amount of data, a good set of data that we can validate and verify and use it.
Thank you, Sanath. I think you're correct. AI is changing the way we do business. Frank, your thoughts on the subject?
Yeah, well, the last point from Sanath is one of the main issues I see. Yeah? It's not a matter of technology anymore, because the technology, although emerging, has already proven itself. But the issue is data, good data, to train the AI models to do an even better job in supporting our cost estimates than they already do. And yeah, that's I think the main hurdle, because all existing estimation models that we use to train the AI algorithms, they have one, let's say, fatal flaw, is that they rely on successful projects because they finished, and that still results in well, as we observe it, a kind of biased prediction, because you miss the information of what was the original plan and what's the realization. So there at least in our practice, we still need the human expert knowledge to verify whether the AI predictions make sense.
Thank you, Arlene.
Okay, first of all, Frank, great point. We still need humans, and excuse me, people that use their homegrown models, people that use their commercial models, they're relying on the data that those models were built on, and that data is flawed because, as you said, the projects that fail aren't included in that data because they failed. But I do think that there's aspects of machine learning and and artificial intelligence that are going to help drive organizations towards doing better estimates, especially if the organizations are religiously collecting the data of their projects. And if ideally they're collecting the data of their failed projects as well as their successful projects, though, you know,
Would be
what
nice.
organization wants to do that? But, you know, organizations with lots of historical data are in an ideal position to take advantage of AI, machine learning, to help them create better estimates for their projects. From a higher level perspective, there's the same sort of black box issues or concerns that come with commercial cost estimating models that, okay, I used a decision tree. How do I know what actually happened and what data actually drove my estimate? And many of the AI models that get created are as black boxy as many of as the commercial models that get created that create distrust in the industry, especially like in the aerospace and defense industry where they really need to see the data. So I think short answer, which I guess I went past short already, but the short answer is that I think organizations can very much take advantage of artificial intelligence to help them do better estimates. And they're going to know what data was involved in that estimate because they're going to, it's their data. Organizations that need to estimate things that they haven't done before, you know, there are going to be concerns about the whole black box of how do I believe this estimate because we've never done this before and there's not enough data in the industry. So there's concerns about it from that perspective. I think it's a great tool, and I definitely think, you know, as Sanath said, as a complement to a more traditional estimate that organizations are comfortable with and understand, I think it's a great complement.
Great answers, all three of you. Sanath, do you have something to add?
So I do get questions asked about AI. So the human nature, the human experience, the qualitative part of the data. How can we include that into the AI formula? There's lots been research. I mean, if you look at academic research, there's plenty of academic research that proves that can be incorporated into AI modeling and simulation. So it's not an issue. In fact, this requires more brain power and more human resources to develop the data set. So we are not going to go obsolete anytime soon, cost estimators. In fact, we'll be in more need because we are the people who understand the cost data, not just software, but hardware and all the other elements of it. So AI actually is bringing in more work towards cost estimation, software cost estimation, etc.
Good answer. All three of you, great answers. This is a problem we will continue to face. I noticed there's a question in the chat. I think we'll answer that, Keenan, as once we get through the next round of questions. So the order now will be Arlene first, Frank, and then Sanath. I don't know whether I like this question or not. It says the role of the cost estimate often remains underappreciated in the IT sector. My experience has been that when I get an answer they like me. When they don't like my answer, I am definitely unappreciated. But let me ask the question as it sits here. The role of a cost estimator often remains underappreciated in the IT sector. What steps can be taken to elevate the recognition and importance of this role within the industry? What changes in perception or understanding are needed? So Arlene, you first.
I first of all see this trend changing. I think I've been in this industry for almost 40 years. So, you know, over time, software has become more and more appreciated as an important part of the cost of a project. As you know, from a business perspective, I see that we're getting more interest from a more diverse set of markets in software cost estimating. So I think it's still an underappreciated role, and I think there's still work that needs to be done. But we should accept the world is being run by software. Okay, and we're not going to change that. And more organizations are realizing that if they can control their software costs, if they can understand their software costs, they are in a better position to be profitable. I think the biggest thing that we can do, I mean, I think ICEAA with the SIG S and our efforts to promote software cost estimating as an important discipline, I think organizations like ICEAA that do things like that are helping a lot to promote the role of the software cost estimator. I also think that academically, if software engineering students, if programming students were introduced to the idea that you can't just write software. If you do a software project in your master's degree class, part of what that project should be is figuring out what you think it's going to take you from an effort perspective to create a solution, and then comparing that to what it actually took you, collecting data and comparing that to what it actually took you. I think the industry would benefit greatly if academia would support things like that.
Excellent answer. So let's see, Frank, same question to you. Are we underappreciated?
Well, every now and again I feel underappreciated, yes. And I think what ICEAA is doing with SIG S is very important. But the question was about the role of the cost estimator, and I think Arlene is right when she was saying, well, the role of reliable cost estimates is growing, and I think with that growing, with the call it the maturing of the software industry, the appreciation of the role will grow. And what really helps with in our case the SIG S certification, it helps when there are certified cost estimators available. But that in itself will not increase the appreciation, I would say. But the importance of reliable cost estimates, then the appreciation will follow. And something like that you see in the building and construction sector. I was on a cost estimation conference where there were, out of 600 attendants, 4 from IT. Their cost estimator is a real respected role, and there's no project going to be run when it's not gone through the hands of a capable cost estimator. So I think it's a matter of maturing the industry. Mm-hmm. And I think another important factor, and I'm not really sure how we can influence that, is the role of the customer organization. Because as long as customer organizations keep believing in what a lot of software suppliers are telling them, that software estimation is very difficult, and therefore they should be materialized in time material contracts, where the risk is totally on the client side. That's not really helping in getting the role of a cost estimator appreciated. Yeah. And so that's something we have to do something about it. And like we mentioned in one of the earlier questions, when business is becoming more and more in charge of IT development, I think that's one of the factors that will make that change in our favor, because when you're in charge of both IT cost and what it will bring to your revenue, you will require something like a business case, a substantiated cost estimate. So I think we should focus on that kind of thing and not on the role itself.
Good point. Good points. Thank you. Sanath, your thoughts?
So as Arlene and Frank said, there's certainly a shift towards the need for IT and software cost estimators that I've seen in the UK. not just defense and aerospace, but in automotive industry and nuclear and oil and gas, and certainly quantity surveying part of construction. So to answer the question, yes, about 10-15 years ago, the costs were hidden under systems cost. Right, you don't need an IT or software cost estimators. Now, certainly, they started looking at it, and they started seeing, okay, right, so customers and supplier perspective, the customer think, okay, right, I need to understand what's in the system specifically. I need to have a good understanding of how much that system, be that with software or hardware, is going to look like. Early on, that wasn't the case. Now, they wanted to know exactly, because that's one of the key drivers. On the supplier side, suppliers used to take advantages of customers not having a good understanding of how much software and hardware cost is going to be. Now they need to understand how much a software and hardware cost is going to be, because they have to prepare for the resources that's necessary. So it's even more important, has become even more important now that they need that resources. So there is a shift, and there's a huge shift. Now, the problem with that is we don't have enough resources in the market. And this is where the ICEAA Software SIG certification will certainly help. But also, it needs to be a two-phased activity. Commercial world, defense and aerospace, pushing for this level of resources, and also academic doing the research. Because I know for a fact there are 2 universities in the UK, like Cranfield University, who produces a great papers and a research on costing, digital twins, etc. And then you go Bath University concentrating on cost estimating. We need to work with academia, and it needs to be pushed from both the side. Great research coming from the academia to influence IT and software estimating, and us in the industry working with them to increase the resources level and the understanding of the IT and software cost estimation.
Thank you, Santa. Before we go to questions, let me just kind of close by saying thank you to the panelists. But Frank, do you have any kind of closing or comments on everything we've said today?
Closing comments. Well, I think it was a good discussion, and in line with I think I got good supplementary information from Arlene and Sanat on my view, and I think, yeah, I hope it was also helpful to all of you attending this.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, Arlene, any closing comments from you?
I think software cost estimation is going to become increasingly important in not just the aerospace and defense industry, but the automotive industry, hopefully in the financial and banking industries as well. And I think that, we need to, as cost estimating professionals, we need to continue to push the importance of it and to help educate people coming up in academia and in industry to understand that cost estimating, software, hardware systems, is a viable career. And I've done it for 40 years. It's a fun career. I get to learn new things about technology every day. So yeah. I think we just need to continue to, what's the word, proselytize, maybe, how important cost estimating is and how it can be a good career. And it's not just as boring as it might sound in the 1-minute elevator speech.
Thank you. Sanat, any closing comments?
Yes, it's a great time to be a software cost estimator. Because of the emerging technology that we got, we are in the right mindset, and it's a learning process. I think it's critical that we got this skill set spread out, and it's exciting time. We got AI influencing quite a lot of work that we do. We need quite a lot of data scientists to manipulate that data to get that AI element into estimating. So I would say it's absolutely fantastic time to be a software cost estimator.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you. This was fun.
Thank
Hopefully we
you.
won't get such hard questions that I don't think that in half an hour. But so far this has been very fun.
Thank you. Thank you. So at this point, I'll turn the conference back over to Eric and Megan. I see at least 2 questions in the chat. So Eric, Megan, over to you.
All right, well, we got a couple of questions in the chat, like Bob said, and I'm going to start by reading off the first one because it's pretty straightforward and I'll be able to ask. How do you get a vendor or developer to report the government data points every 2 weeks?
The short answer would be put it in the contract.
Good answer. Good answer.
Good answer.
But
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it needs to be a more motivational than that, and because what we try at IDC when we are involved in such kind of things is to show that it's not only to control vendors, because I think that's not only in the Netherlands the case, but they don't like that. But you can learn so much from it. And it's in its data that's there. You just put your Jira or whatever you're using, get the data from it and learn from it. And that's one of the agile principles in your retro. Take your data and try to learn from it. That's that's underused.
Uh-huh.
And also you can protect the data. You know, just because they're turning it over to you doesn't mean you're allowed to share it with anyone else. So, you know, they shouldn't be nervous about that. I mean, they should be maybe a little nervous about that because, you know, everything leaks, but you can put that in the contract too. That
non-disclosures.
Yep.
Next question. Oh, go ahead, Santa.
No, I agree. There needs to be some sort of process written down in order to capture that. So yeah.
Next question.
For this next question, I'm going to ask Kanan M to unmute themselves so they can ask it because it's a doozy.
Hi, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Thanks for the opportunity. So yeah, just the point that I just want to make here is since I handle the enterprise IT in my organization as part of the CIO office, so we often come across the situation like when we get business requirements for certain processes. So we traditionally used to develop applications, right? So now we have lots of products in the market. So hence we look at, okay, is it a worth investment to go for a product or do we build in-house? And naturally, I think the preference these days is on products, picking up products because they have kind of time tested. There are a lot of competitions around and the products have evolved over time. And when we go for choosing a product in the market, what we then look for is typically the license cost, the typical AMCs and other aspects. But what I realize is in a typical CIO IT landscape, it's not just one product. We always will have a host of products for different business processes, starting with, let's say, the sales process, the ERP process, and the delivery process, and so on. We will easily have 15 to 20 products in the landscape. And when we try to plug out and plug in a product in one of that huge complex landscape, the challenge that we see is it's not the cost of choosing the product for the first year and the second year and third year. It is about integrating that product into my already complex landscape and also about maintaining that entire landscape, because not just for this product, because this product will be good, it will be upgraded on a regular basis, but some other product will undergo a change or a version upgrade or whatever, and then again this product will get impacted. So there is a little complex maze in terms of how do I estimate the entire cost of ownership of that product for the whole IT landscape per se.
Okay, can I answer that question?
Sure, please.
Okay, so there's no, I say can I answer the question, but there's no a right answer to this question. So I feel your pain, because what I always look at is people opting for COTS, which is commercial off-the-shelf product, because it's easy. But what they forget is the systems application of the COTS, because as you say, you've got complex landscape, and they need to get integration, and there's a huge element of integration. So your key cost driver that that not sure if you have that now is is through life cost estimating. I mean, you can do you can integrate your existing software to your existing platform, or new software to your existing platform. That's fine. That itself costs you quite a lot of money depending on requirement. So sometimes on its own, it's a cost. But the key driver, the key problem that this landscape face is the maintenance cost. And the obsolescence. So if one software goes obsolete, or the licensing finished, or you got some certain issues, or bug fixing and patching, things like that, the entire system goes out of action. So that's where your cost is. So I think one way, there's several ways you can do it. So understanding each element of the cost, so understand your licensing costs, resource requirement costs, and all that kind of stuff, and also looking into your management plan, having an obsolescence management plan or maintenance management plan. How often do you do your update, upgrade, and all that kind of stuff? Having a better understanding of that will help you manage your cost. I'm not saying that it will help you reduce the cost, but it will help you understand the cost and be proactive about it. So it's all about proactive understanding of your potential cost burden.
Great response.
Can I add just one little thing about, because it's very important what Sanat is saying. It's not about the cost per se, because building your own application might turn out to be more cost effective than a package. But you also have to weigh in that if you build something yourself, you have to keep it in with the developments in the world around you. And you have to keep it up to date. While when you buy a package, you can ask your supplier to be responsible for that. So that's something, and that's a typical kind of thing that's at the moment still difficult to build into AI software prediction models, because it's a human decision that comes on top of it.
One thing that I would add to the already two great answers is that there's also due diligence, understanding the vendors that you're working with, understanding what their track record is, asking for references from customers that, have been successful with them, or asking for references. They're not going to give you customers that weren't successful. But I just think due diligence is also important in figuring out whether it's better to build or buy.
Yeah, I agree. And adding on to that point, you need to understand your software supply chain. So not sure if you know that there, like hardware supply chain, you got software supply chain. Understanding that is critical in managing your cost and being proactive.
Sounds to me like that's the end of that answer.
It's not an easy answer.
No, but there was a moment of silence. You guys weren't adding one more thing, so I think we got you. The third question comes with a compliment on the great conversation and some thanks. How does the industry measure the size of their agile programs for use in early cost estimates for future projects? Given the known calibration issues in comparing story points outside of a specific project, just curious if there are other metrics they use to measure what was delivered for use in future estimates.
If I may start answering, and the others will complement me, I think. Well, I see, and that's something that, well, is really an issue still in large software developments, is that to compare it, you need to have a basis for comparison. And that cannot be done with story points type of metrics, which are uncalibrated by nature. So you need to have something based on standardized metrics and things like functional size metrics, those kind of things that can help you compare things you've done in the past to predict things you will do in the future. And with my customer base, I see that acceptance more and more coming in. And yeah, some companies try to build it into their agile processes as well, but yeah, there are some difficulties there.
Yeah,
I completely agree. Functional size measures are where you want to start when you do your minimum viable product, and or maybe requirements, but things that are based on the functionality that's being delivered, the business value that's being delivered by the product. Story points are great for development teams to have this great communication amongst the team. They're not great for the higher level estimating reasons that we do higher level estimating. So there needs to be some understanding of the functionality or business value that's being delivered to the customer. And it's not easy.
I agree with that. Santa, go ahead.
No, I agree. I mean, Arlene stole my thunder there. So yeah, I completely agree on that. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's the whole point of panel discussion, isn't it? So yeah, happy with that. Yeah.
I love that answer because I would have given the same thing early on. Functional sizing is seems to be the solution. Megan, next question.
This question might end up being our last, depending on how long it takes to answer, but I think it dovetails nicely into a little reminder we wanted to give here at the end. This one comes from Ed Spriggs with compliments on the discussion. What specifically can we do as a group to build the brand of software cost estimating within the industry?
Good question.
CBOC S, just saying. Software cost estimating certification, having organizations that are looking to get software developed require a certified software cost estimator would be a great way for us to promote the importance of software cost estimating.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of a commercial, but it's a cool product that I know a lot about and I believe in it. So.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah, and next to that, something I already said earlier, we somehow need to educate the customer organizations who want software for their processes and products, that reliable cost estimates are important. And to do a reliable cost estimate, well, then I come back to Arlene. You need a CBOC S certified cost estimator, which is a great idea.
Yeah, good point. But I got a completely similar view, but a completely different way of approaching the view. As a commercial element, as together, what we need is to rely the benefit of having software cost estimation to the key stakeholders or key decision makers. We need to sell them. There's a benefit for having a certification, not just certification, but the importance of having a good software cost estimation in the company or organization. So we can write business case, we can do everything but unless we actually do and deliver and show them the benefit of having software cost estimators in the organization, they won't budge. So we need to approach that way, sell the benefits, drip feed the benefits of having them, increase the the buying from the key decision makers, and do the top-down approach where decision makers says, right, we need these kind of people in my company to have a good understanding of the cost that is involved with the estimate. And also bottom-up approach from people like us, providing the software CBOC certification, and keeping that certification level up. So it's a two-phased approach. I think this is where academia and industry needs to work together. talk to us, talk to ICEAA, talk to Software SIG people, how best we can do that. I think that's the way ahead.
And I just want to second that. Academia has
Great
to
addition.
be involved.
Yeah.
I think, if we get them when they first start doing software development or first start doing program management, get them to understand that cost is important. Here is an important industry that you might want to understand. And here's, one certification path, but learning about it is important, whether you need to be certified or not.
Oh, and have a standard. We'll get there, but we need to have a standard. We need to make it.
Yes.
Yeah, we do need. I mean, we got plenty of software standards, IFBUG and all that kind of stuff, but not necessary for cost estimating. But we need to work towards having a standard, and what standard dictates is a process, and company needs to follow that standard, so it will improve the, improve the visibility. So yeah, we need to work towards to get a software cost estimating standard.
Okay, great. With 4 minutes to go, I would like to thank you all the panelists and Bob and Megan for facilitating this, and for all the people on the call for being listening to this panel and for the great questions. In parallel, I also saw that there is quite a good discussion ongoing in the chat. That is good to see. And we get a lot of great topics on the system engineering, where luckily there's more focus on the software cost estimation, the cost estimation we see in agile, the use of AI. It was mentioned the need to have, and also the chat, it was mentioned the need to have good data. And one of the things what was mentioned here is the cost estimation body of knowledge for software. We have in October 24 to 26, there is the ICEAA Software SIG organizes a CBOK-S training in the Netherlands, and that will be the training will be provided by actually the panelists that you saw today. So by Frank, by Arlene, by Sanat, including also myself. So there will be 4 people during that 3 days to provide parts of the training. And the great benefit of that is that we will limit the group, so that the group will be limited to 20, mostly 25 people. There are some spots left, so that you can still register. The benefit is that we have 3 days where it is not only sending the information, of course it is to explain the CBOK-S, but where you also will have the possibility to discuss topics that we were discussing today. So you can ask the questions, there's enough room to go into that kind of discussions, and of course also go into discussions with the other people that are attending the training. So if you are interested, it is in the Netherlands. It will be in Delft. For the ones that doesn't understand the layout, this is the Delft blue, because the Delft is famous about the ceramics, the blue ceramics. It's a city that's I think it comes back from 1600, so an old city. Nice to be there, close to the airport in Amsterdam. It is just 20 minutes from there. So if you're interested, just have a look. And for now, again, I want to thank all the audience to attend this session. Thanks to Sanat, Arlene, and Frank for the great discussion. Bob for facilitating this, and to Megan to facilitate the whole session. I think the recording will be available on the YouTube channel of ICEAA, so that and that will also be communicated further on LinkedIn, where you can find it. So thanks a lot for all your input, and if you have any questions, then you can contact the panelist, or you can use the ICEAA channel on LinkedIn to provide any further questions and for any further discussions. For now, I would say thanks for your attention again. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks all, and hope to see you in the next session. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Eric.
much.
Yep. Bye.